Well, folks, there is an epidemic of women abusing their husbands. Can you believe it? I was listening to Pastor Joel Webbon talking about this domestic violence in the home, and I thought, yeah, boy, that's bad. You get bad stuff, right? And then he said, actually, there's good evidence that it's more women committing the violence than the men. I thought, holy cow, what's going on here? Let's get to it though. Let's go to what Pastor Joel has to say. Now, if you're liking this content, like, subscribe, give me a comment below. That helps the algorithm. Let's get to it.
Domestic violence, if there's domestic violence in a home, in a marriage between husband and wife, again, it's 70% of the women who initiated that violence. And you and I have both, um, talked about this, and not with specificity, not sharing events, particular events, or certainly not sharing names. But both of us, over the years in pastoral ministry, have dealt with couples within the church, and not just within, J.D. Greer's church, but within, true gospel preaching churches like yours and mine. Yeah. We've dealt with married couples where it's the wife who is physically assaulting her husband, and I've had to deal with those cases, and it's really challenging to be just practically, telling the husband you must get out, you must physically, you have to run, and when you run, here's another thing, like, you can't push her, because people don't understand how much stronger men are than women. You cannot push her, even just to try, because I've dealt with cases where the husband has been physically cornered back into a bedroom in the home, and she's blocking the door, and then she's throwing things at him and beating and hitting him, and it's like, you've got to get out of there, but you can't push her, because I've dealt with those cases too, where I was just trying to leave and I pushed her and she flew and hit the wall, and dude, it's a nightmare having to pastor through those kinds of situations. I'll say it like this: in my pastoral experience, which, granted, I'm not 70 years old. I haven't been doing it for 50 years, but 10 years, give or take. In my decade of pastoral experience, I've never actually counseled a married couple where the husband hit his wife. I have only counseled in all the domestic violence issues, which there have been a few. It has always been the wife is physically hitting, I'm talking about closed fist, hitting her husband. And the most that a husband has done is pushed her to try to get out of the way, to run out of the house.
Wow. Now when I listened to that, I thought, whoa, what this guy, pastor, done ministry for 10 years, counseled couples, and he's never had a case where it was the husband, the one committing the domestic abuse. It was the wife doing it. Now, what is going on in Christian homes that this is his experience? This is crazy. I couldn't believe when he said that. I was like, whoa. Now, when he cited, or 70% of the time when domestic abuse happens, it's the wife doing it to the husband, or girlfriend to boyfriend, or whatever, the female to the male. There's a study on that, I guess, is what they mentioned earlier. I tried to look that up. I could not find that study where that is. So if anybody in the comments below, if you've seen that study or whatever, let me know. But I can't find that study. I'm not saying that they're lying about it. I'm sure they're telling the truth of what they've seen, but I can't personally find that study. But I'm just blown away by this. Like, I have never heard a pastor say, yes, when I counsel couples, 100% of the time, or even now in a second here, Eric, the other pastor that's on this podcast, he's going to say that about 70% of the time in his experience is the wife physically assaulting and abusing her husband. Crazy stuff. Let's go on.
It's really interesting, Joel. I can think of a handful, right, of guys who were, there was legit, like, domestic violence. But I would say, on the whole, my experience in 10 or so plus years, it's more than that now, but of pastoral counsel and that sort of thing, I would say it's much more common to see. It just doesn't. It gets looked down on as, oh, it's not a big deal. But it's like, again, wives who are throwing things, slapping, hitting, that sort of thing. It happens surprising number of times. I think for most people would be shocked to know how much that's happening. But it's also interesting. I was talking to a pastor who's in his 70s now, sort of at the retirement age, kind of seen it all across the last, 30, 40 years of ministry. And he said to me, he said, it's weird because like 35 years ago, he said it was almost always, it seemed like predominantly like kind of deadbeat guy, come on, get it together. And the ladies are like, sweet ladies, like standing by. I'm kind of, oversimplifying this. But he said, it's amazing in the last 10 years, he said, how many times I'm dealing with women who are just like, you know what, I'm not emotionally fulfilled, I'm leaving him. And he said it's interesting how many of the guys are like, he's a good guy. Yeah, he's not, a character from a Christmas Prince on Netflix or something, but he's providing, he's meeting all the basic needs. He's taking the family to church, but it kind of goes to the, I think it was last year or the year before, Adele, the singer, she leaves her husband and she goes on Oprah, and Oprah's like, why did you leave your husband? And she said, well, I just wasn't 100% happy all the time. And so I decided to leave him. And Oprah said, you know what, honey, that is such a powerful story for women today. And I'm sitting there thinking like, this is horrible advice. I mean, shamefully arrogant, self-centered. Nobody is telling them the reality of that situation, right? That you're destroying your own life. You're destroying your children's life. You're wrecking this guy's life because you weren't 100% happy. Well, like, who's telling these people this stuff that you deserve to be 100% happy all the time? Guarantee you Adele's not 100% happy now after she left.
So anyway, yeah, the show was mostly on why women are initiating divorce. Now we've all heard those stats that 70 to 80 now % of the time when a divorce happens, it's the woman initiating. If she's college educated, it's over 90% of the time she's the one who initiates. We've heard all that stuff. But the thing that blew me away was the domestic violence thing. Like, what is happening in Christian homes? And even Pastor Joel said, like, yeah, I'm in a very conservative church. This isn't JD Greer's just come one, come all, whoever walks in off the street, rah, rah, six boom, bah, praise God. Like these are very conservative churches. So if it's happening in his church, then what is going on in the big Eva churches? I don't know. I had to put something out there, and I was listening, and I thought, man, this is blowing me away here. Now, there's a very personal story to me that a good friend of mine, he's actually an old manager of mine at the company I work for. His wife divorced him, ran off with another deacon in the church, had to pay her over $3,000 a month in alimony or maintenance payments or whatever, plus child support and all that. And, he had to fund his wife's divorce. Well, he gets remarried to who he thought was a good woman. And she ends up, he tells me a story a couple months ago, she's physically assaulting him. I thought, man, this guy, he goes from bad to worse. It's like, I can't catch a break. And she's slapping him, because, and here's why it broke out, because he has a daughter and she has a daughter. If he does not buy his stepdaughter now everything that his daughter gets, then his wife goes berserk. Not just, hey, this isn't fair, blah, blah. And in those cases, when you're sharing homes, when she's with her mom 50% of the time and his stepdaughter is with her dad 50% of the time, it's hard to keep everything even Steven 50-50 down the line. Like that is a hard balance to get. So he tries to do the best he can, but what happened was he bought his daughter just a t-shirt. She bought her a t-shirt, and his wife figures out like, oh, she got a new t-shirt. You didn't buy that for my daughter. And goes berserk on him, starts slapping him. And I thought, what on earth? So he ended up actually just calling the police. And then she flees the home, goes to her parents' house. Wow, when's that? Oh. And then the police go to her house. And then she accuses him of hitting her, right? Which wasn't true. And so then, the police come back and they say, well, now it's a he said, she said, so blah, 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 whatever, right? And to cap it off, her daughter then backs up her mom's story that, oh yeah, he hit her, blah, 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 which he did not do. I mean, gentlemen, you got to be warned. You got to be warned out there. Stay away from these women. I don't know what else to say about it, but I'm blown away by this. The pastor's talking some real stuff here. This is real stuff. It's not just pie in the sky, by and by, blah, blah. This is real stuff. Now, before I end, I'd just like to pontificate on why are there so many women committing domestic violence against their husbands now? Why would that be? Now, I want you to give me a comment below. Why would there be so many women who feel that it's okay to assault, their physically assault their husbands? Like, we all know that ain't okay for men to physically assault the women, right? And it's not okay. I agree with that. Why would, especially Christian women, think this is okay? Or think they can get away with this and say, oh, like Joel says, closed fist. Can you imagine closed fist? My goodness. Now, my thought is that the ethnicist mindset has so taken over that they think, well, hey, I can get away with whatever I want. I can get away with it. So why not? You know, if I'm not getting what I want, then maybe I feel like I'm being abused. I'm being emotionally abused. I'm being financially abused. I'm being spiritually abused, whatever other idiotic term they come up with now. Probably got a bunch of other ones now. So I might as well push back. I don't know. Like, I can't believe, like, this just blew me away. Give me a comment below. Well, we got to get this turned around. And we are getting it turned around because Christ is winning. He is building his church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Until next time, this is the Post Millennial Man.